Hi guys, it's Andrew here from OnePlus Armor, and today I'm going to do a quick rundown on the Chaos Dwarf magic lore, the lore of Hashut. So this one's probably not as common or as normally seen as some of the other ones. So I guess we'll just get right into it. So the Legion of Azgorh, which is the Chaos Dwarf lore from the Forge World Tamarcon book. They have their own lore, which is the lore of Hashut. Made these cards myself, so well, I printed them myself. And I guess we'll just get right into it. So the first spell, which is the signature, I guess we'll do the lore attribute. So killing fire. If a magic missile or direct damage spell from the lore of Hashut is targeted on one or more models with the flammable special rule, the wizard adds a plus D3 to their casting value. This lore attribute isn't that great. Like, there's a lot of hex spells in here, or things that don't really deal flaming damage, and you know, there's not a lot of models in the game that do have the flammable special rule. Although, I guess we'll get into it later, it does synergize well with another spell in this lore, and I'll tell you that when we get there. So the signature spell is Breath of Hatred. This is a remains in play spell. It's an augment and has a range of 12, and the target unit becomes subject to hatred while the spell is in effect. You can have this bubble effect to affect all friendly units within 12 inches, but the casting goes up to a 15, normally cast on a 6. So this is actually pretty good. Anytime you can, get yourself rerolls, such as through hatred, it really boosts the combat effectiveness of units. Pair this up with some of the other units in the army, such as the Kadai Destroyer. This can really amp up the damage output he can do. And, it remains in play, so that's pretty sweet. You cast it off once, and then your opponent has to decide whether to let it keep going next magic phase or waste his dice. And if you're only casting it on one unit, it casts on a 6. It's fairly cheap. Only level 4s can take this lore, the lore for shit. Well, your lore level casters, so 3s and 4s. So, you can very easily one dice this spell just to get it off, and your opponent either has to decide to dispel it or not. The bubble effect is nice because dwarfs are fairly slow, only movement 3, so chances are a good portion of your army will still be within the general's leadership bubble, unless he's tooling around on a Bale Taurus. So yeah, that's the signature. Then we'll get into the first spell. Burning Wrath. It's a range of 8, cast on a 6. It's a magic missile with a range of 8, not that great. It inflicts D6 strength 6 hits, which count as flaming attacks. The sorcerer can increase this to 2d6 strength hits. If they do, it casts on a 12 instead. It's nice. It does d6 strength 6 hits, which is pretty, it's pretty powerful for a magic missile. The problem with it is the range. A range of 8 isn't that far. Even if you say march full out, so your movement 6 if you march, it still doesn't give a very great threat range for this, and usually magic missiles are used to sort of deal with enemy chaff if you don't have anything else to deal with it, and this sort of falls flat. Like, I mean, if you want, I'm sure you can make it work, but it just doesn't seem... The range really kills this spell, is what I'm trying to say. It's not bad, but just because of the range, it sort of puts it at the lower end of effective spells for this lore. The next one up is Dark Subjugation. Now this one's pretty cool. It has a range of 24, it casts on an 8+. It's a hex spell. The target unit must pass a leadership test at -3 or suffer a permanent reduction of 1 to their leadership for the rest of the game, to a minimum of 2. Unbreakable units are immune to this spell. Now, that's pretty awesome, I think. It has a good range on it. It casts, again, like the casting value is super low for it. You can I probably wouldn't try to one dice it. At least two dice it with your level 4 guy. And yeah, anytime you can screw with your opponent's stats, that's a huge thing. Especially sort of low leadership armies to begin with, such as ogres or orcs and goblins. Skaven are in there, I guess. This can be devastating if you nail their general with this, and you can keep casting it. So say you don't plan to deal with that general's unit in the first 2 or 3 turns of the game. If you keep casting this on him, he can potentially be like a -3 permanently to his leadership. At which point, when you do nail him with something, say close combat results or something similar, I guess, that can really hurt. Also, Dwarfs have the Hell Cannon. So the Hell Cannon works is if you take a wound from a shot from the Hell Cannon, they have to take a leadership test at -1. So if you already have -1 on them forever, and then you hit them with the Hell Cannon, that's, you potentially can make them start fleeing fairly quickly into the game. If I rolled this spell up, I definitely would keep it, unless, you're playing against demons or the undead, just because they don't have to worry about leadership checks. Alright, so we'll get into the next spell. The Curse of Hashut. Cast on a 10+, has a range of 18. It's a direct damage spell. Targets a single enemy model of the caster's choice, even a character in a unit. That target suffers a number of hits equal to 2d6 minus their toughness score. Hits from the spell cause a wound on a 4+ with no armor saves allowed. So this is just like the Laura Death snipe spell, one of them. It's pretty good, I think. It's got, half decent range of 18. And, anytime you can do stuff that ignores armor, so those higher armor units really hurts them. Does wound on a 4+. So, you're probably hoping you roll half decent. Average is 7, so that should be alright. You should get a couple wounds through. This is a good way to snipe out sort of hero level casters and BSBs and stuff. That's about it. Really hurts, low toughness armies, so anything T3, this can really put a damper on them. Not so good against the higher toughness things. Like anything toughness 4 or up, it's, you're probably only getting maybe 1 or 2 dice, unless you roll crazy. Cast on a 10, so that's, again, a low casting value for the effect. I guess that's a common theme for this lore, though. I'd keep it, I guess, depending on the army. But we'll get into the number 4 spell. Now, this is my favorite spell in the lore. It's crazy. So Ash Storm is a hex spell with a range of 24. The target unit suffers -1 to hit in close combat, -2 to hit with shooting attacks, until the starting of the caster's next magic phase. Just a second. Excuse me. In addition, the target unit may only use its basic movement, may not march, charge, or fly. The unit also treats all terrain, except impassable terrain, as dangerous terrain while the spell's effects last. Wizards cannot cast magic spells except on themselves while under the effects of this hex. Any unit under the effect of this spell is treated as being flammable. So, for a 12 casting cost, you basically can completely neuter a unit. This is awesome for dealing with Death Stars because, it really slows them down. It really stops wizards from being able to affect the game more. And just like anything, being forced to use your basic movement and you can't march or fly, this really helps you deal with, demon princes, chimeras, anything that can fly is going to get in your face right away, and you don't really want to deal with it that quickly. Just knock them down with this, and all of a sudden they're walking 10 inches instead. or actually they're moving their base move. They can't even march that 10. Again, you know, -1 to hit in close combat. That's pretty devastating. Being a Nurgle player mostly with my other Chaos armies, I know that I rely heavily on that -1 to hit when getting, you know, smacked around. So this is a big deal. -2 to hit with shooting isn't, I don't know. Not many people rely on ballistic skill shooting to get you. I mean, I guess the Wood Elves, but even then, you know, it is only range 24, so they're probably staying as far back as possible. We won't even get them with that, but, you know, all the other effects of this is great. Now, what I was going to say before is, this makes a unit flammable as well, so all of a sudden this lore attribute comes to an effect. You know, you nail them with this, and then cast Curse of Hashut. I guess not, it's only magic missiles. So, the signature spell, sorry, not the signature spell, Burning Wrath is magic missile. So that really only pairs up with that. I don't know, it does work for direct damage. So all of a sudden, you know, the last two spells in particular, but even these ones, all of a sudden becomes easier to cast. So already this cast on a 6, add plus D3 to your casting value, you can easily 1-dice that. Curse of Hashut, direct damage spell, cast on a 10. You know, all of a sudden you could potentially 1-dice this, you know. Plus 4 from your wizard, D6 plus D3, easily. The last two, I guess I'll go over the benefits of the lore attribute from Ashstorm on them after. Actually, well, that's basically Ashstorm, so we'll get right into number 5. So, the Hellhammer. Direct damage spell, cast on a 13. To determine what is hit, extend a straight line 3d6 within the caster's front arc, and directly away from their base. Each model in the way, determined as for a bouncing cannonball, must take an initiative test or suffer a strength 6 hit causing multiple wounds D3. Any unit suffering casualties from this spell must immediately take a panic test. The sorcerer may choose to double the Hellhammer's range, making the line's distance twice the total rolled. If they do so, the casting value of the spell is increased to an 18. So, it's not bad. It's not great either. Because units are only effective if they take an initiative test. This is basically useless against armies like warriors and any of the elf armies who have super high initiative to begin with. Although this is pretty devastating to, say, ogres, because it does D3 wounds and it is a strength 6 hit, and they're, I think, only initiative 2. Same with any of the dwarf armies, so chaos dwarves or regular dwarves. You know, this is a good way to smack around certain things. If you double the range, you can potentially snipe out war machines and stuff, because they always fail initiative tests, so then they'll just take the strength 6 hit, causing multiple wounds. Not too reliable, but you know, you'll take what you can get sometimes. Like I said, this spell's sort of hit and miss. Depends, really, it's really army specific. And a lot of the times, you know, it can potentially just do nothing at all if they pass their initiative tests. I guess that's it for that. If you have Ashstorm on that unit, you know that makes that spell easier to cast. And here's the last one, and this one is pretty crazy too. So that's a direct damage spell, cast on an 18 plus. Okay. It's a direct damage spell which may be cast at any point on the table within the caster's line of sight. So already you have unlimited range with this spell. That's crazy enough as it is. Place the small 3-inch round template with the central hole on a chosen target point. The template then scatters d6, remaining on target if a hit is rolled. All models touched by the template suffer a strength 6 hit. Hits from the spell have the flaming attacks and multiple wounds d6 special rule. So that's everything under the template. not just the hull. All models touched by this template suffer a multiple wounds d6 hit. In addition, the model directly under the hull of the template must take a toughness test at -2 or be slain outright with no saves of any kind allowed. The sorcerer may choose to increase the power of Flames of Azgorh using the larger 5-inch round template. But if this is the case, the casting value is increased to 25. So this is a granddaddy, big rulebook style number 6 spell. It's got that it's got that straight up just kill you, no saves of any kind allowed type effect. It does cast on an 18, so you're level 4. You probably need like 4 or 5 days to get it off, unless you have that unit also hit with Ash Storm. This is awesome for dealing with ogres, troll units, with Throg especially. That's just the basic effect. For that guy under the hole, I've used this to try to snipe out demon princes, steam tanks. What else have I used it on? I guess those are the big ones I always try to get with it. But either way, like, just having that ability to potentially kill something right quick like that is huge. The -2 to toughness, even with a demon prince, he's only toughness 5. So all of a sudden he's toughness 3. There's a good chance he'll fail that toughness test and just out you go, bud. The unlimited range is crazy, so even, this is a potential turn 1 6 dice spell. Just because you don't have to worry about getting close to the enemy to cast this off. Everything touched by the template takes d6 wounds. You can stomp chariot units. Ogres would not be happy about having to take one of these. Like, this is a brutal spell. Cast on an 18, like I said before, it's not doable. If you want, you can go for the big template, and it, casts on a 25 plus, so that's a lot harder. But even then, you hit them with, say, Ash Storm, and then this, and you go for the big casting, you can potentially get that off on still like 4 or 5 days. Yeah, this is a really good number 6 spell, I think. I guess the one downside is its flaming attacks. So depending on who you're fighting, Dragon Princes, other shit that has that that 2+ ward against flaming. I guess it won't do too much, but not a lot of stuff really has that, and I think the flaming attacks is more beneficial than not, just because it'll let you deal with regen, it'll let you deal with hell pit abominations, really, really tough shit that's hard to deal with. I guess that's all I really want to say about this spell. In general, the lore is sort of a mishmash of like a bunch of stuff. You got some augments and hexes, a bunch of direct damage shots, and that's about it. Like I said, the lore attribute isn't great. It isn't, it's very situational. Even with Ash Storm, usually like I'll cast Ash Storm to stop a unit in its place, and then I'll deal with another unit, like not waste resources dealing with the Ash Storm unit, because I know they're not gonna be able to take part at least for a turn in the game. So, unless I'm going whole hog trying to deal with a unit, chances are I'm not gonna really take advantage of this lore attribute too much. The number 6 spell is really good, especially for dealing for those big monsters and toughness units. The only thing I find it lacks is the direct magic missile spells. They have really short range, and dwarves already don't move very far, so I find it hurts the effectiveness of it. Like, range 8's not that great, range 18's not that great when you're trying to deal with chaff, because they're so quick, they're going to be up your flanks and stuff, and then you have to find a way to deal with it. So, these two direct damage and magic missile spells aren't totally great. The Hellhammer is cool, I guess, but even then, you know, anything with high initiative, it's basically useless against. So there is only like sort of, I guess, 4 spells that I normally try to get. That'd be Ash Storm, Flames of Azgorh, Dark Subjugation, and the Signature. If I can get those 4, I basically have what I need for the game. You know, I got the big Crusher spell. I got a really bad debuff spell. I can give my units rerolls from Hatred, and I can screw with my opponent's leadership. If I am playing like Undead or something, maybe I'll go for the Curse of Hashut just because it has slightly better range, and you know, I don't have to worry about the spell not doing anything if they pass their initiative test. So yeah, other than that, that's basically the lore. Maybe I'm not seeing some potential here, so in the comments below, maybe you can tell me if my assessments of these spells aren't totally correct. That's just the way I see it. That's the way I've sort of gathered information from the games I've been playing with these guys. It is a cool spell. Yeah, spell lore. You know, it's got a bunch of different things, so I'm happy with this as a lore in general. Usually I'll pair it with a Lore Metal guide just so I can deal with high armor targets quickly. Just at my level 2. Although Chaos Dwarfs have access to fire magic, metal magic, and death magic as well. So already I can see, you know, Dark Subjugation with Doom and Darkness, and then a Hell Cannon. That's -5. That's a fleeing unit. Yeah, other than that, that's the lore in quickly run down. So if you like what you see, leave us comments below. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, because that's the best way to get in contact with us usually. We try to do discussions and stuff on our Facebook page every once in a while. Sometimes they go good, sometimes they just sort of fizzle out, but it's a good way for us to get feedback from you guys. Maybe tell us what you want to see in the future from us. And as always, check out the Canhammer podcast. Great podcast out of Ontario here, like us. They do a lot of tournament coverage and things, and they're more competitively oriented than we are. So if that's what you're interested in, you know, you can probably get some good information from those guys. So anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.